Hey guys, I just built a custom MCP server that checks the news, find pain points and turn them into startup ideas, and it's already live and functional. Can you find me startup ideas about lead generation? So it's using the MCP. This is good. Okay, here are some promising startup ideas focused on lead generation. Most relevant to lead generation, find me SEO, an AI-driven platform that helps small businesses compete with larger companies for search visibility. It offers guided SEO, SEM strategies, automated optimization. In this video, you'll learn how to build your own MCPs that read real news stories and turn them into startup ideas automatically. This video was inspired by a brilliant idea from Greg Isenberg, who used Reddit to find startup ideas based on pain points. For simplicity, we're using the News API in this version since Reddit requires OAuth and it was making things more complicated. But stay tuned, I'll be building a more advanced version using Reddit in a future video. Here's what we are going to do step by step. First, set up the News API so we can tap into real-time news and extract meaningful insight. Then we will build a prototype using NA10 to process the news data and surface pain point and to see if everything works as we want. Then we will set up Bit. By the way, you can watch this video because in my previous video I'm already setting this up. Then we will create a prompt based on our prototype and on the News API, and we will prompt the Bit MCP to create the Startup Ideas MCP. Then we will refine the output to have the exact behavior we want for our Startup MCP. We will test it locally. Then we will export it to Bit so we can use it anywhere, and we will install it in Claude and use it. Let's dive in. By the way, you'll get the full source code, the workflow, and the final working MCP completely free in the link below. Everything you need to build or customize your own version. And don't worry, this is beginner friendly. We are going to use NA10 to prototype and the Bit MCP to vibe code the starter MCP. And if you want to go deeper in this kind of build, understand everything and create full stack AI application, you can join my AI Alchemist community in the link below. First, we are going to prototype the idea inside NA10 to see if everything works correctly and to know what we are going to ask our MCP to build. So first, the API. I have chosen the News API because it's easy to use and we have 100 requests per day, which is more than enough. I wanted to do it with Reddit, but with the OAuth it was getting more complicated, and I will certainly do that in a more advanced video very soon. So the News API, so if we go to get started, we have the endpoints, and we are going to use the everything endpoints because it searched through millions of articles from over 150,000 large and small news sources and blogs, and so it suits for discovery and analysis. So this is what we need. So we need the API key. We have the Q parameter, which is the keyword or phrases what we are going to search. Well, we can choose the sources, the domains. There is many parameters, but I use only a few ones. So now let's jump into NA10. So we begin with the chat trigger, and then we have an HTTP request to the News API, and we are going to target the creator economy. So it output articles. So I have chosen 10 articles, and okay, so here they are. Then from there, we split out to have the 9 items, and then we have an OpenAI node, and in this OpenAI node I say you are a business analyst reading news to spot startup opportunities. Here's a news article, and I ask it to summarize it and extract the pain points and to return a JSON. So here I use OpenAI because it has the content as JSON in a native way, so it makes things easier. Okay, so here we have our output. From there, I edit the fields, and then I aggregate all the pain points. And as this is an array of array, I have a code node to flat this array and have just an array of pain points. And then we have another OpenAI node with a prompt. You're a startup idea machine, and here are the pain points from recent news articles, and I ask you to group it by similar pain points into themes, and for each theme to suggest one startup idea that could solve the problem, and for each idea to return the name, the problem, the solution, the target user, and the why now, and to return this as JSON. And here we have the results, so themes, live podcast, event and monetization, pain points, startup ideas, etc. I'm not going to read everything, but it works. So we can use that now to create our MCP. Was just the proof of concept. By the way, you will be able to download this workflow in the link below. And now we are going to set up a Bit project to create our MCP. I'm going to pass quickly on that because I have explained all that in my last video that you can see here. So first we need to create a scope in our Bit environment, and I already created it. So here the MCP scope. So this is here where you can do that. VS Code, I have created a startup idea MCP creation project, and I type Bit in it. Then I edit this workspace JSON C, and I need to have my scope, which is cutzi.mcp. So MCP is the scope that we have just created, and then I need to add this in the ends. Okay, and now we type bit install, and we wait for all the package to be installed. Okay, and now we have to install our MCP. So bit MCP server setup VS Code. Okay, and so it creates this folder VS Code, and here we have our MCP. I don't know, it opens all the VS Code settings, but that's not very important. And we need also to start our MCP. So bit CLI start server. Okay, it's running, and we have 7 tools. And then I need to install the MCP server rules. Okay, and here it is. And we're ready to go. Now I've opened Copilot Chat and had a big prompt. To create this prompt, I have used ChatGPT and explain it everything and give it the API documentation, and this is what it comes with. So create an MCP server that runs a user sentence into 3-5 well-formatted startup ideas based on real-world news article using the News API and OpenAI GPT 4.1. Goal. When the user inputs a sentence like "I want startup ideas in the creator economy," the MCP should extract the main logic or keyword, query News API, look through the top 10 articles and summarize each article, extract any pain point or unmet needs, aggregate all the pain points into a flat array, generate startup ideas from those pain points, format the final output in human-readable markdown suitable for Claude or ChatGPT. Input, output, well, not for ChatGPT, by the way, because there is no MCP. Output a clean markdown formatted message like "Here are 3 startup ideas based on recent news around creator economy," etc. And then we have the environment variables, the News API key, and the OpenAI API key. So step 1, query the news API, use this endpoint. So we give here the documentation. And here we pass the extracted topic in the Q parameter. Step 2, summarize each article and extract pain points. Send each article to GPT-4o1 with this prompt. So we give the same prompt that in NA10. So basically I have used the NA10 workflow to create my prompt and have everything clear. Okay, so it's step 3, aggregate pain points, flatten all pain points into a single array. Step 4, generate human-readable startup ideas, send the full pain point list into GPT-4o1 with this prompt. Okay, so here we have the prompt, news API doc summary, so endpoint and authorization key, etc. So we're ready to go. We need to be in agent mode and we are going to attach the instruction from Bit here. Let's go. Okay, so it's running the Bit workspace info. Okay, I see a Bit workspace with MCP templates available. Okay, I can see there is an MCP STDO template available. So let me create the MCP component using this template. And this is the magic that Bit provide templates for MCPs. Now it's running Bit execute and we see that he has created an MCP folder here with a folder startup ideas MCP with an index, and here we will have all our core of our functionality, and here we will have the Bit configuration and here the documentation. So we have to let it work. Now let me get the details of the newly created component to understand its structure. Okay, continue. Now I need to implement the startup ideas MCP server. Let me check if we need to add any additional dependencies to the workspace first. I need to add packages for news, API and OpenAI. Now I implement the startup ideas MCP server. Let me replace the current index TS with the implementation. So now it's going to add all the functionalities here. So let's see what is happening here. Let me update the documentation to reflect the new functionality. So now it's going to work on the documentation. Now check if there is any errors in the implementation. Perfect. Now let me create a simple usage example file and a README for better documentation. Okay, so let me check the current status of the workspace and validate our implementation. So, okay, what is doing now? Okay, well, I keep everything. Before, we are going to review what it has done. So everything is in the index, so it imports the necessary package from the model context protocol SDK. We have an interface for the news article and one for the article analysis. Okay, that's good. Then he creates an instance of the MCP server named Startup Ideas MCP. And then we have the functions. Okay, so first thing here, to extract the topics is using it programmatically. I would prefer to use AI to be more flexible. So we are going to ask that. Let's continue to analyze what he has done. Then he queries the news API for recent articles about a topic. So he creates a function and here we pass the API key, error handling here. And okay, the URL, the API is here, all the params, and okay, that's good. Then function analyze article. So here we are going to use OpenAI. Okay, the prompt is okay. And here is not the right model. I want GPT-4o1, but I think it's thinking of older models, so we will change that later. Here is using the compilation API, but I wanted to use the structured data, so I'm going to tell him that. Okay, because here is parsing the content, but I think it would be better to use the structured output. And then it uses again an API call to OpenAI to create the startup ideas. So I think this is good, except the model. And as you can see, it's using a temperature 0.8, as we can be a bit creative here. 0.7 here. And okay, so I'm going to ask him for the extract topic function to use AI. Could you modify the extract topic function and use the OpenAI API, because it would be much more flexible than this? Okay, I'm using the bit MCP. Okay, the component is working without any errors. Let me also update the documentation to reflect this improvement. And as you can see, is again using the bit MCP with bit query, and everything is working smoothly. Okay, we're good here, and now we're going to ask it to use the structured output from OpenAI. So if we go to OpenAI, this is what we need. So we are going to give it this code example. Okay, this is for the analyze article. Please modify the analyze article function to use the structured output API from OpenAI. Here is an example of code. Okay, I think we're good. So we continue. The component looks good. Now let me also update the documentation to mention the new structured output API feature. Okay, the component is working correctly with no errors. Let me also update the example usage to mention the structured output feature. And while you do that, we are going to verify everything here. Okay, so this is the schema for the article analysis for the structured output with title, summary, and pain points. Then the extract topic now is using OpenAI. It has even created a fallback topic extraction with the user sentence and stop words. Then the function to query the news API. Then the function to analyze the article and to summarize it. I want to change the models. Yeah, here I want GPT 4.1. Okay, same thing for this one. Okay, you see here I put a temperature of 0.3 because this is really to analyze and we don't want any creativity. Then analyze article, we have seen it. And generate startup ideas. Here, where is the model? Okay, GPT 4.1. Okay, then we have our tool here, which is named Generate Startup Ideas, and its description: generate 3 to 5 startup ideas based on recent news article related to users' input. Okay, and at the end, it returns the startup ideas, and then it starts the function. So we're good. Here we have the bit configuration, and here we have all the documentation. And in this documentation, so it explains how it works. When you input a sentence like "I want a startup ideas in the creator economy," the MCP server will extract the main topic using OpenAI's intelligent analysis, query the news API for the top 10 recent articles about that topic, analyze each article with GPT 4.1 to extract pain points and market gaps, then aggregate pain points into a comprehensive list, generate startup ideas based on those pain points, and format the output in clean, human-readable Markdown. Then the environment variables, the news API key, and the open API key. The key features, intelligent topic extraction, real-time news analysis, etc. And an example of output. And then here we have the necessary code to install our MCP and also to test it locally. So now we are going to test it locally. So for that, I just need to copy this and to add it to my MCPs in settings JSON. So I just add a comma here and paste that, and then I need to add my API keys, and I'm going to start my server ideas server, which is here. So start server, okay, running, and discover one tool. Okay, so now I open another chat window and I ask it, can you give me startup ideas about travel planning? And we see it's using the MCP. Okay, here are startup ideas based on recent news around travel planning. So it's grouped by themes, tourism, hospitality, overload. You see everything is super detailed, perfect. I've generated 5 startup ideas specifically focused on travel planning and related technology. Here's a summary. So travel planning startup ideas, flow vista, tourism flow management, so problem, solution, green balance. Okay, we're good. The MCP is working. So now we are going to install it in Claude. Before being able to use our newly created MCP server, we need to export it to Bit. So we do it with this command, bit tag build and bit export. Now our component is exported and we are going to see it in Bit Cloud. And you can see our MCP is here. So we open it and we have all the documentation to install it, okay, how it works, and environment variables, key features, example, and now we have the code to install it in Claude. So I just copy this part because I have already other servers in Claude, so that's why I did not copy the whole thing. And now we are going to Claude. So now in Claude, I go to settings, developer, and you see that I don't have my startup ideas MCP here, and edit config. And now I open this, and here I'm going to add my MCPs and now my API keys. And I restart Claude. And now if I go to my tools, here is my startup ideas MCP. And now we are going to test it. Can you find me startup ideas about lead generation? So it's using the MCP. This is good. Okay, here are some promising startup ideas focused on lead generation. Most relevant to lead generation, find me SEO and AI-driven platforms that helps small businesses compete with larger companies for search visibility. It offers guided SEO, SEM strategies, automated optimization, etc. Okay, so the lead generation space is ripe for innovation, especially around AI-powered personalization, so that's interesting for us. Cross-platform attribution and industry-specific solution. What I want to know if Claude has used his own capabilities or only the MCP. So I'm going to ask it. To get this result, I've used only the MCP and the news API and articles, or have you come with ideas yourself? Okay, I use only the MCP tool to generate those ideas. The entire response, including all the startup concept, description, target user, and why now explanation came directly from that tool. I didn't have my own startup idea to the mix. I simply passed along what the tool provided. I asked that because when I was testing this, sometimes Claude has his own ideas, but I want you to give me the output that is specified in the MCP with the problem, the solution, the target user, and the why now. Because I don't know why it doesn't always follow this output. Okay, now it's good. And of course, we will have a document here with all the information about this MCP, all the code, and also the N8N workflow, so you can test it and come with other MCP ideas and create them. Now you've got everything you need to build an MCP that finds startup ideas based on real news. If you want to go deeper, join my AI Alchemist community where we build full stack AI apps like this every week. And if you're a business looking to implement AI automation, I'm offering free strategy call. Check the link below. And if you find this video valuable, please subscribe, like, comment, make everything to please the YouTube algorithm. This will help me to produce more content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.